see this? You see this injury on my thumb? I was chopping things and I cut my thumb. I'm making gumbo and I was doing some prep work.
Boy, I hate that. That's like the worst place too, you know?
It's not a good place, but it's not also not
because most of the time, if you put a Band-Aid on it, in about 3 minutes it gets wet because something, it's just all the time.
You're going to keep chopping, you can't go to your non-dominant hand, and it's just, it's so unfair. So unfair. If you think white privilege is real, then it just got lost with my thumb.
Yeah, and if I don't have use of my dominant hand, then I can't dial a phone.
Yes,
dial a phone.
Lock my front door, or
right.
Okay. Cast. Please share. Sharing that one.
That little sharing box is just not popping up on my thing. This is why I'm having to, backtrack and
home set.
That's the problem.
What is it here?
So now, see what I do is I head over to your page.
Mm-hmm. And you see it?
And try to pick it up there. Yeah, I see it.
Sweet.
Okay, good. Did it. I did it.
I'm ready. You're ready. Okay. We're ready.
All right. Here we go. I got double iPad action in front of me today here.
Well, it's going to be a good day.
And a phone on the side, and a cup of brand new coffee.
Oh, what could be better?
And this is the Brad and Britt cast. This is our last one for the week, unless Trump resigns over the weekend, and then we'll come back and do it. I'm sorry. That was the old script. That was the old script. It never happened, did it? It never did happen. He didn't.
You got to specify whether it's going to be Donald, Laura, Don Jr., Eric, Shemp, Gummo. Which one of the Trumps are going to resign?
Yeah. All right. I have. I want to just throw out 4 quick ones here. 4 quick ones.
Let's go.
These are all based on the racial issue in this country in one form or another, from the absurd to the serious to the what's the big deal. And I think I'll save the last one for last, which is why it's called the last one. Actually, that would make it the 5th one. Okay. Number 1, DC passes statehood bill in the House. The statehood bill passed in the House, and of course it was all Democrats voting for Washington to become a state, number 51, all Republicans saying no. And they went back and forth, and we have a congressman from New York. He's a hard lefty. He's a hard lefty. I mean, he is just all in. He's like AOC in pants. Okay? This guy. His name is Representative Mondaire Jones from New York. He says,
Yeah.
I've had enough of my colleagues' racist insinuations that somehow the people of Washington, D.C. are incapable or even unworthy of our democracy. One Senate Republican said that D.C. wouldn't be a, quote, well-rounded working class state. I had no idea there were so many syllables in the word white. Okay. All right. He continued, one of my House colleagues said the D.C. shouldn't be a state because the district doesn't have a landfill. My goodness, with all the racist trash my colleagues have brought to the debate, I can see why they're worried about having a place to put it. All right. So in the world in which we live, what happened? The Republican, they are so offended. Oh
so
my,
bad.
how dare someone take that down? Take those comments down. They never happen. It's like getting rid of a tweet. Like you can't get rid of a tweet even after you've gotten rid of it. LeBron. I'm sorry. That was issue number 4. Anyway, so he takes it down. He takes it down, and they take the comments away. But of course, they exist. We know about them, and naturally, the congressman is 100% correct in his analysis on why Republicans don't want Washington, D.C. to become the 51st state, because Washington, D.C. is the blackest part of the United States.
Right.
It's about 48% black, which is a higher percentage than any other state. Right. There's no state that I don't even think there's another state that's in the 40s.
And by the way, they've done some monster jobs at trying to gentrify, but they still have just a lot of black people in D.C.
Yeah, that's just I don't know what it is. They just won't leave. They just won't leave. And the Republicans are throwing up all these. Well, there needs to be a constitutional amendment because the district was designated a special thing. And then one of the Democrats, I can't remember who is it. Hey, fuckface. 37 states became states without a constitutional amendment. Cut the shit out. And of course, this will never pass in the U.S. Senate because, you would need 10 Republicans to, join in with assumedly the 50 Democrats. And it isn't even 50 Democrats. I think there are 6 of them who are not even on board. The usual suspects, the Joe Manchin, Kirsten Sinema, the usual group. Right. So it's never going to happen. But I just think that's kind of an interesting little sidelight that's kind of running below the surface here.
I was looking up Congressman Mondaire Jones as you were. And this guy's a real idiot. Stanford University for his BA and his JD from Harvard. So he has no idea. He has no clue what's going on. No, he's 100% right about that.
Hey, here's a sidelight corollary on law schools, because we always like to judge people on law schools. By the way, which you didn't go to and which I didn't go to for obvious reasons. Okay? Obvious, but okay. There are top tier law schools, there are mid-range law schools, and then there are the bottom feeding law schools. And by the way, some good lawyers can go to bottom feeding law schools. Correct. And some of the biggest pieces of shit went to Harvard and Yale and other. Okay.
Hi, I'm Ted Cruz. Have we met?
Right. Exactly. That being said, for instance, we always would point out that Michael Cohn went to Western Michigan University Law School, the Thomas Cooley School of Law, very often rated near the bottom of law schools. And he, in his book, said, absolutely, this law school sucked. I knew it was easy to get in, and I didn't care where I went to law school because all you have to do is have the degree, and then nobody asks you and nobody cares later on. And I guess technically he's kind of right. With that in mind, Jim Jordan, who, next to his name, there's a parentheses, and it says, piece of shit - Ohio. Okay, that's his party. He's piece of shit party - Ohio, Jim Jordan. He went to law school too. He went to Capital University in Columbus. All right. Capital University is down there. You look up I've never heard of it in my life. It's a bottom feeder. It's a little private university on the east side of Columbus. And I know that because when I was a kid and we lived in Columbus, and there's a little part of Columbus on the east side called Bexley. It's a very well-to-do Jewish section of Columbus. And we butted right up against Capital University. Nice little school there. And they have a law school. But your reaction is absolutely correct. Nobody knows about it. Nobody's heard of it. Nobody cares. So Jim Jordan went to Capital University, their law school, and then after he graduated, he didn't even take the bar exam. He did not even attempt to take the bar exam. Now, why is that? Is because he never really wanted to be a lawyer. He didn't think he could pass it. Why would you ever go to law school? Ever go to law school? Takes at least 3 years.
Right.
And then not take the bar exam.
Just to say you went?
I get, well, yeah, well, because you're Jim Jordan. Well, he had that. He was going to have that burgeoning credential as a wrestling coach over at the big guy down the street, Ohio State. So he didn't need it.
This is
okay?
I'm looking. I got a screenshot from the Money Inc. list of worst law schools in America. 2019 was the most recent list, and Capital was number 7. You can see on the list. Capital,
yeah.
CAPITAL, Capital University, which
right.
I've just heard about.
All right. So we've now diverted let's get back on track.
Yes.
Nothing more needs to be said about Jim Jordan.
Except that Jim Jordan did get his ass handed to him by Val Dennings this week. I mean, that did happen.
Yeah, he did.
So that was kind of neat.
All right, here we go, and we have all kinds of people just being idiots on social media about the Derek Chauvin conviction, including LeBron James. But we have from Massachusetts, the Fall River Police Department sharing a screenshot of a tweet that said, so the police department shared this, right? Chauvin immediately stood and calmly placed his hands behind his back. Imagine where we'd be if George had done the same. What, he would have wrestled the sheriff to the ground. He wouldn't have allowed them to. So the behavior of a white man after being convicted, it was so classy. And Derek Chauvin is not getting credit for it. I guess that's the point of the tweet, right?
I suppose that's what they're going for.
I guess that's what they're going for. So I guess one officer did put it up in the name of the whole department. The mayor, of course, has said this doesn't represent us, blah, 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 and we're done, and the rest of it. Okay. And I'm sure there's a zillion. Oh, wait, here's another example of a Britt.
Okay.
That guy, Chris Baker, out in Omaha.
Right.
That guy. Now, you and I, because we're radio geeks, we've known of the name. We've heard of Chris Baker. I've heard of him for 20 years because he's one of these guys who's kind of a second-tier radio guy, did stand-up. And I think he did fairly well in Houston for a few years, and he got fired for something stupid down there.
He did. There was something idiotic in Houston. You're right about that.
I can't remember what it was. So, with his career booming, he ends up in Omaha.
Which is a nice town. Omaha's a perfectly fine town.
Well, when you're in Houston, which is market number 3 or 4, and then you're in Omaha, which is market number 71. 71. You know, you're not headed in an upward trajectory. But
not
okay.
So much.
So Chris Baker, apparently minutes after the Chauvin verdict on Tuesday, tweets out a picture of a bunch of natives holding spears. Mm-hmm. Okay. I mean, it looks like it was, taken from some old Tarzan movie or something like that, and then colorized. Jesus. And above the picture is the word guilty. Okay. Well, that was it. They canned him, they fired him. But the interesting part of the story for me was his reaction. Okay. Because his reaction was, this is not me. This is not what I'm all about. No, that is exactly you. That is exactly what you're all about. And the reason that you did what you did is because you thought at the moment that Derek Chauvin was convicted on all 3 counts, that your racist white talk show audience of conservative knuckle-dragging fuckfaces would be sympathetic to Derek Chauvin as the new victim of being the victim of a racist justice system. That's right. We joked about it yesterday. but not really. You know, a white man just can't get a fair trial in America. And that's what you were doing, Chris Baker. You were playing to the cheapest of the cheap seats. They weren't even the seats. They were the standing room seats back in the building across the street. That's how cheap that was. And you thought it was funny. That was you. That was you.
He called it a boomer Twitter moment. On behalf of baby boomers everywhere, would you like to address this, Brad?
Well, obviously, I'm not going to address it. It's too stupid.
It's stupid.
It's too stupid. Wow. Blaming your entire generation for your own racism. Way to go. Yeah, I'm
generally
going to go
speaking,
there.
when you get him into a corner like this and you're of a certain age, you blame Ambien. I'm very surprised that he hasn't gone for the Ambien excuse on this, right? Isn't that like for a while, wasn't that the thing?
I guess it's kind of tough when you're probably on the air and you're looking for shit to be clever during a commercial break, and that's what he did.
That's right.
Right? He's saying, my thumbs were moving too fast. I put up the wrong picture. How did that picture appear? Where did that picture come from? Did they just fly in from space onto your Facebook page?
And you got to know, there's like 5 live people still working in radio. They're looking to fire anybody they can right now. Don't give them an excuse. My God, they're trying to cut payroll left and right because they got no money coming in at all. Don't hand them an excuse on a silver platter to get rid of your ass, Chris Baker. Yeah. Even as racist as talk radio is, you went over that line somehow.
Right.
Amazing.
Right. You're right. It's hard to cross that line these days to get fired. All right. And of course, we wish him well.
Oh, we hope he's hired immediately. I hope he gets into a much larger market.
Now, with that being said, and we can talk about this because, well, we're a podcast.
Yes.
I had not been watching any editions of Jeopardy since Alex Trebek left the building. Didn't watch the Ken Jennings, didn't watch the Katie Couric, all the people, Aaron Rodgers, didn't watch any of it. And then last night, which was Wednesday night, I watched because I saw Anderson Cooper earlier in the day talking about the fact that he had, taped several episodes, recorded. Okay. I have to be, come on. He had done several episodes, and I watched one last night, and I thought, holy shit, he was great. Really? He was great.
Yeah.
And that's not surprising because here's a guy with thousands of hours of ad-libbing under pressure, live on TV for decades now, and he's pretty good, and he had full command. I mean, you could hear everything that he was saying, and his pacing, it was right up there with Alex Trebek. It was really, really good. Now, okay, fine. Now I think they've got Joe Buck is going to be doing a week, and a few other people. But apparently the People's Choice, Twitter's choice, the folks' choice, the sign a petition choice, let's get couple 100,000 people because he's the one who really deserves its choice, is LeVar Burton.
Yeah.
All right. LeVar Burton, the Reading Rainbow guy, the Roots guy, who's an actor. And he's been campaigning for it for years. He's been talking about it for years. This is his dream job. I was born to do this. I've watched every episode forever. And my take is, at this moment, he wants it too badly. He wants it a little bit too much. And we haven't even seen him do it yet. And I don't want to prejudge anything, and I don't want to be called on the carpet for anything else here. But God almighty, can you at least wait until we've seen how well you do before you, quote, deserve the job? It's not easy. And if you haven't done that kind of rat-a-tat kind of dialogue, it's not easy.
No.
And because you've been an actor, because you've been the host of a show where it can be take 2, take 3, take 4 till you get it right, I'm not sold on LeVar Burton. And because
Okay.
he was the Reading Rainbow guy who may have been responsible for teaching millions of kids how to read and inspiring them to read, that's great. But I don't know how that turns you into the favorite without us ever having seen. You know what, Britt? I swear to God, I've always wanted to be a forward for the Cleveland Cavaliers. I've wanted it forever. I was a fan of Austin Carr, one of the first great Cleveland.
Sure.
I've been there forever, and I deserve. No, I suck. I couldn't do it. I never could do it, and I would have to show that I could do it. And I think this is like athletics. You're not going to get this job because people want you to get it, because this is not American Idol. This is not the quote people's favorite. Right.
Well, the expectations
I could be wrong here.
The expectations are so high. I mean, I don't see how he even meets those expectations at this point, right?
I don't know if he does, but I don't understand how that. Then you know what? Why have everybody else even do it? Why have other guest hosts do it? If this is the decision that's quote already been made, then why let everybody go through the motions? What are you doing here?
Right.
Now, am I going to get boycotted by the NAACP? Am I a racist because it's LeVar Burton that no, absolutely not. I deny it. It could be anybody who thinks they deserve the job because they like the show since they were a kid. There's lots of shows since I was a kid.
Being an acolyte of Tucker Carlson, I'm looking for a good some of my NPR favorites like your David Sedaris or your Ira Glass, maybe to step in and do that, because I don't believe in the replacement. I LeVar Burton. I want some of my NPR favorites to get a crack at this thing. And then Robin Roberts is also being pushed.
Britt,
I think that's completely unfair.
It's a half-hour show.
Oh, yeah.
If you have an NPR guy, they got to expand it to 45 minutes.
Yeah, Ira Glass can't even cough at 45.
Oh, God.
That's fantastic. All right.
Yeah.
Did you go through all of them? I wasn't counting.
What?
Your list of things. You had 4, and then there was like a dessert or something.
Let's see. All right. I guess we didn't talk much about LeBron's stupid ass tweet that he tried to take down, where
true.
he puts up a picture, I guess, that was associated with the shooting of that girl in Columbus, in Ohio, and his words were, "What? You're next." All right. End of the world. Stupid. He takes down the tweet. Doesn't matter. Tweet's already circulated. Now LeBron James has officially started a race war in America, and blah blah. And so the cycle starts. And and he says, I probably shouldn't have done that, but that's too late. Yada yada. And there it is. Nobody learns anything. I think from what we can figure out nobody learns anything. And people make the same. And by the way, that's not the definition of insanity. That's just the definition of stupid. Okay.
Yeah.
That's the definition of stupid. And
it was
I want to think that
it's kind of Trumpian almost. If you think about it, if you think about just firing from the hip and give me the phone, guys at LeBron's level have teams of people that send out tweets and stuff. They go through layers of vetting, and is this okay? Does this pass this legal test?
Well, obviously not in this case. That's his. He did it on his phone.
He was able to do it. That's why I think he kind of bypassed some of the safeguards that he may already have in place, and that's kind of where he gets in trouble and has to, But hey, but at least he deleted it, Brad. So it's like it never happened.
Well,
so that makes it okay.
I think you overestimate.
Yeah.
There are teams of people who vet famous folks' tweets.
They're supposed to be, and they do have them. But sometimes these guys,
and then every one of these people says, "Hey, fuck, I can do this."
Exactly.
Fuck you. Right.
And that's where you get in trouble. And then you have to delete it. And you have idiots. I'm showing the picture.
But see, you should not have to have people telling you that's the point. That's the point.
And there's your favorite Senator John Kennedy piling on LeBron James from a Fox News story. He can go from 0 to screw everyone pretty fast, according to John Kennedy, who also had his ass handed to him this week by Stacey Abrams. If you want to look that clip up.
Right. The good news is that the overreaction and the fake outrage will far outweigh and be completely disproportionate to the tweet itself, because it always is, right?
Absolutely.
So,
That's what's going
and you
on.
know, I will notice, and you will notice, and we should all notice that we have been hesitant the last 2 days to talk about this story, the one out of Columbus, because
Yeah.
it's really difficult to get your arms around exactly what happened. I can only say this. Besides the factual part of the story, which is she 15? Was she 15 or 16?
Yeah, 16 is what I'm reading now.
16. Okay, so she's
A minor
16,
by any standards.
right? And she had a knife, and there was a knife fight, and the police officer's story, I think, is that he shot quickly because she was about to possibly kill other people with the knife in the fight, and this was a protective measure in a way, and therefore he was just doing his job. My question is, isn't there something in between? Shoot to kill, and can we just sit down and talk about this? Can we just talk this out? I'm a social worker. Can we, because it's a heated moment. You're a police officer. You drive up there at the last second. Things are going on, and you have to make that split decision. We've all seen those drills where, the thing pops up, and the thing pops up, one on the left, one on the right. One is a bad guy. One is your grandmother. You have to quickly decide which is, and they look the same. They're wearing this. Police officers have a very difficult job, but by giving them this ability to shoot first and be asked questions later, is that wrong? Was there another way to handle this, even in the heat of battle?
Yeah.
Is there any other way besides shooting her 4 times? And amateurs like us go, why don't you just shoot her in the leg? Or, we always say that. And then they go, well, they can't do that because they have to look for the largest part of the person to shoot at, because no one is a crack shot under the heat of a battle. So you shoot for the most obvious spot. It's very often in the chest, and a person dies. I get that.
I think what you're saying is reasonable. I think these are reasonable questions. I also, for my own taste, I don't think that this, as of right now, it doesn't seem to me to be, it shouldn't be grouped in with some of these other ones, some of these other cases like George Floyd and Dante and all these, Breonna and all these other ones. I don't think it should be.
Right. And that's why LeBron should know better and should have known better, and not immediately jumped in with the, you're next. What? We're going to put you on trial exactly the way Derek Chauvin was, because I know better. I'm LeBron James. I didn't even go to Capital University Law School, but you don't need to put yourself in that position. You would have lost nothing. You would have lost nothing by waiting for some more.
I think that's what he meant, and I think that's what he was talking about. However, of course, your next is going to be open to all sorts of interpretation. It's just something that he shouldn't have done, and it's something that shouldn't have been done, and then he has to delete it, which makes it 20 times worse, as you well know. So yeah, I agree. I don't. It was something he didn't need to weigh in on, and it wasn't very helpful in any way. But I will still say that I don't believe this case in Columbus kind of gets, as of right now, if I see more facts unfold as we go forward with this investigation, then I might go, okay, this does belong in the same level as George Floyd and Breonna Taylor and some of these other cases as well. But I don't see it right now. And I'm with you. I don't feel like going off half cocked on that one. This was a story that
What else you got?
Well, I do want to talk about Tucker Carlson, because it's not getting any better, but we can stand that for just a moment. A Pennsylvania Republican who objected to Trump's election has concluded that fraud was committed by Republicans, Brad. This is an interesting twist. Seth Grove, who is in the Pennsylvania House, was interviewed by someone. He went through it and he goes, yes, I have done my due diligence on this, and it was Republicans, but it's still election fraud. It doesn't matter who commits it. We don't want fraud to occur, and to say there wasn't any is a lie. So Pennsylvania despite being a very different place in North Carolina, they also have Republicans that are committing voter fraud, just like in North Carolina, Brad. That seems to be the case.
This is a continuing story of projection, right? The projection by Republicans, with Trump as the king of this, is that just in general, if you don't know anything and they talk about election fraud, well, they're obviously talking about Democratic election fraud. And then beyond that, what they're really talking about is Black Democratic election fraud in Atlanta, Detroit, Milwaukee, Chicago, those kind of places. But when you examine the amount of voter fraud in the country, and certainly in-person voter fraud on election day is just about non-existent. It's one of those 0.0001 kinds of occurrences. That never happens. Very often it has to do with registration or people messing around in neighborhoods and ballot harvesting, collecting, and things of that sort. And it seems the majority of the time, you're right, it's Republicans who are doing this. They're doing the real election fraud. They're doing the real registration fraud. So what's the best defense against your own offense? It's blame the other guy for what you're doing. This just fits the bill. Do more of that story, because I'm not familiar with it.
Oh yeah, that was exactly it. It was, his name is Seth, and he had objected, saying that there was voter fraud. He objected to the results, saying that he believed that Donald Trump was screwed out of the election, and now he's had to admit that it was voter fraud on behalf of the Republicans, and that he's going to have to go forward with it to go ahead and try to forward his findings in that investigation. Now, I will say, he says there's not like this mass amount of fraud that's going to shift hundreds of thousands of votes, but there was election fraud. We have had repeated election fraud in this Commonwealth for decades. And the interviewer goes, well, this is not a message that particularly Republican politicians were giving to their constituents. And the man, Seth Grove, says, nope, not at all. He was further pressed on why he didn't call out the lies that shrouded the 2020 election. His response to that, he goes, I can't help people believe everything on the internet. There are a lot of bad accusations out there. We did our due diligence to try to address them. When members had questions, people are going to believe what they believe. The other reason for doing the hearings, we look at the actual election law, the actual administration of the election, and you can hear by the stakeholders' testimony or public statements, there was a lot of appreciation for how we did it. So at least the guy, Representative Grove, is admitting that it was the Republicans who did this, and he's at least fessing up to it, if you will, and not trying to perpetuate the big lie, which is causing a lot of problems in American society these days.
Right. But see, and again, we lose sight of what something like this probably means. Election fraud, if being committed by Republicans on behalf of Republican candidates, this is not about Trump.
No,
it's not. By the way, if they committed election fraud in Pennsylvania to help Trump, they're really bad at it. Okay, because he lost Pennsylvania. True. They can't even get that right. But it's not about that. It's about the congressional races. It's about state house races all across the country. There's no reason to believe, and this is just my intuition here, that Republicans would stand by as the country changes, as the demographics change in all kinds of places, not just Texas, not just Georgia, but all over the country, because the country is browning everywhere.
Sure.
There's no reason to believe that Republicans wouldn't use these tactics at every level of the electoral process, not just the presidential level. That's just once every 4 years. This is an ongoing thing. And if you're a minority party and you're trying to hang on by your fingernails with fewer voters in your core, then what do? You cheat.
Right.
You figure out ways to game the system. And every once in a while, seems more frequent than it used to be, we get an honest Republican who will step forward like this guy and say, Yeah, no, it's us. It's not them. It's really us. And
I think what you just
got
said
a
was so
problem.
important. It's just, and it's so un-American to hold the position that as we get more brown folks into this country, that means that the American ideal is over. That means that it's just going to lose out, because if anybody is differently complected than the people who wrote the Constitution, then we're done. You don't really believe in America. You don't believe in the great experiment. You don't believe in the great ideals. People move here for a reason. They come from all over the world. They want to be here for a reason because of that ideal and the great experiment. But you believe that if we get enough brown folks in here, that's going to tilt it one way, and they're going to make it like Colombia or El Salvador or Venezuela or Mexico or whatever. So you're not really believing in this America that you supposedly have believed in, that you've thought for all these years was worth fighting for and was worth the great experiment and that shining city on the hill. All of that was bullshit. In your mind, if that is your idea, if that is your thought and your supposition, is that if we get enough brown folks in here and if we give those black folks more political power, then it's all over. I find that to be so anti-American and so antithetical to what our founding fathers wanted, in my opinion.
Well, plus the racism involved in the assumption that people who come to the United States from other countries, or children who grow up in the United States, real honest to goodness citizens who are not white, are automatically lost to the Republican Party. The problem isn't those people. The problem is your party. The problem is your ideas. The problem is your approach. And what happens? They just dig in harder, right? They get more devious. They play more games. So I guess it's up to the rest of us to patrol this and call it out and show it for what it is. But it's like these are desperate people taking desperate measures, and they don't care. They do not care.
It feels like what we're going through now in terms of all this stuff, and we're going to Tucker Carlson here in just a second. It's supposed to be the death gasp of this whole situation, this whole nativism, white control, whatever, white replacement theory. I think that's what we're seeing is the death gasp of it, but I won't believe it's over till it's over. You know what I mean?
Who said it was the death gasp of it?
Well,
Who said it was on its deathbed?
Well, as you say, the demographics are changing and these people are being called out for their shit, and they are actually losing elections now. If we're in places like Georgia where they hadn't before, and not by a great majority, but it is happening.
Well, yes and no, but you have to be fair and say, look, outside of Trump getting whooped across the country, and he didn't get whooped that badly when you go because of the fucking Electoral College. The Republicans didn't do all so bad in the down ballot races. Down ballots being anything below the presidency. You know, they just lost a couple of seats in the Senate, and so they lost the majority, but they didn't get swamped. And in the House, hell, they gained a lot of seats back. They came close. They're only about 5 or 6 away.
I think
from
it's
a majority.
6, and based on the gerrymandering before 2022, I think the Democrats are going to be 5 or 7 down before we even start campaigning.
Exactly. Exactly. So this isn't on its deathbed at all. It really isn't. And it's as if at this moment, it's as if Joe Biden is the last man standing. He is the last barrier between, again, another Trump coming in here and changing everything back to the way it was the previous 4 years, and some sanity. He's it. I don't care whether you like Joe Biden, whether you don't think he was a lefty enough, and a lot of people think he's way too damn lefty now. Hey, where's your centrist, moderate Joe Biden now? He's nowhere. Okay, but at the same time, he does swing a big enough one to be able to sit down with Republicans and maybe get some compromise on some certain. I don't know. It could happen. On the
Having,
other
having
hand,
seen all,
they may just say no to everything. I wouldn't be surprised if they don't vote for a damn thing. I mean, they threw out some bullshit plan for infrastructure. What was it, like 600 billion?
Yeah,
It was like less than 1/3 of the size
right.
of. That's not how you negotiate. Get out of my office. Go away. don't play. Just stop.
It's a joke.
Stop.
Having said that,
it is a joke.
It appears that the high priest of white replacement theory, I mean, they've got a guy on at 8:00 every night on the Fox News network who is legitimately mentally ill. Have you seen this laugh that he just kind of breaks into at a moment's notice? This maniacal, crazy ass laugh, as though the synapses are misfiring. He's completely mentally ill at this point, and nobody's going to say anything, right?
Well, I don't think you become completely mentally ill. I mean,
yeah.
you bring a lot to the party. it doesn't happen to you overnight. I mean, he's
trouble.
I mean, there's no doubt about it. He's trouble, and he is so articulate.
Yeah,
that's the dangerous part of him. That's the dangerous part of him. He is a wordsmith. He can make the worst things sound reasonable. I submit that he is laps ahead of the real Rush Limbaugh in packaging hate and racism and any vile subject you want to bring up and making it sound like he's completely reasonable and he's thought of every possibility, and he's just presenting questions, and he's just asking on behalf of good people in this country why things are happening this way, and what about this, and does the vaccine really work? Or do we even know if it works? So, can we do one more quick one here?
Yeah.
This whole quote debate, I guess it's a debate over should you still wear masks when you're outdoors?
Yeah.
What the fuck is this all about?
Yeah, I don't know.
What the fuck? We cannot hold apparently two ideas at the same time. One idea is, hey, guess what? If you're vaccinated and you're outside, you don't ever have to wear a mask unless maybe you're standing next to 20 people in a scrum and you're playing rugby. You ain't going to need no mask. It's outside. The number of documented cases of people getting the coronavirus apparently from being outside with other people is very, very small.
Absolutely.
It's very, very small.
This is you see the story on the overlay there. It's still necessary to wear masks. God. The CDC is looking at revising mask guidance.
Britt, I don't know about you. I have a dog. I take the dog out every day. And I have never worn a mask outside from day one, ever, even when there was no vaccine, when there was no hope of vaccine, because my thought was, fuck, I'm outside. Nobody's near me. And when somebody did come near me, I would stand 5-6 feet apart.
You can back up 2 feet. You can back up 2 feet if you need to.
And that was never a debate. Now I'm vaccinated. Vaccinated. And I'm probably a little more open to being a little bit closer to people. It doesn't really matter. But it's not a debate.
Well,
it's not a debate. The debate is, what the fuck are we going to do with the 20 to 25% of assholes in this country who refuse to get vaccinated and are going to make it impossible for there to be the point where we really all can not have to feel we need to wear a mask indoors in close-in situations? Because for now, even if you're vaccinated, you should still be wearing a mask indoors around other people who you don't know whether they're vaccinated or not. Is that such a hard and fast rule that it's difficult to understand? Is that too hard?
Apparently
Why is there a debate?
Apparently so. I mean, yeah, it's if you're indoors, you can't necessarily get away from somebody. So you're in a closed space. Immediately, what do you? I don't know if you're like me. When you get out of the grocery store, you head toward your car. One of the first things you do is you kind of look around and you take the mask off after you walk out the door because you're outdoors and you can be 6 feet away from people. That's the point. And again, this is becoming so hard because people are just trying to nip around the edges of this stuff to try to call bullshit on whatever. And I had this discussion with my mother last night, and we were talking about the vaccine, and I said, she was like, "Oh, I'm so glad you didn't get Johnson and Johnson." I went, "Mom, if that Johnson and Johnson thing was available, I'd get it today. I wouldn't have a problem with getting it today. My chances of driving to work and dying are about 10 times worse than they are of dying from that Johnson and Johnson vaccine." You've got to be kidding me about that. You have to look at the odds of this stuff, and like you said, with the transmission outdoors, I don't understand why it needs to even be reviewed. It's just a thing. If you're outdoors, you don't have to wear the mask because you can stay 6 feet away from people.
Well, I think we can do what we always do, which is ultimately blame Trump for this, because he turned the whole idea of wearing a mask at all a year ago into a thing. And it's metastasized into all different forms of this is a controversy, this is not a controversy. And it shouldn't be. But the way things seem to be setting up, it looks like we have a situation where there's going to be a growing number of people every day who keep getting vaccinated. But we have apparently a lot of pockets now of the country, some places right where we are, where they could vaccinate 4,000 people a day and only 1,100 people are showing up. And we still have a ton of people who haven't been vaccinated yet. So are these people stupid? Are they incapable of getting where they're going? Do they not know about it? Did they not hear about it? Are they not interested? Are they conscientious objectors? This is like the Vietnam War. I don't want to be sent off to fight no damn Viet Cong. What is it? So now we talked about this a few months ago. I said there would be a crossing point where it wouldn't be, you can't get an appointment to get a vaccine. I said there will be too much vaccine. There isn't too much of it. There are just too many idiots who haven't stepped up yet to get it. But that being said, we're still way far ahead of where we would have been if Trump was still the president. Trump did Operation Warp Speed and said, all right, I'm done, and put his hands up. And that was the end. That wasn't the end. And it took a change in administrations to get, we're only, 2/3 of the way through April.
Right.
And we got a couple 100 million shots now that are out there. And we're making great progress. But at the same time, we have new variations of the virus that are more dangerous and spread more quickly, making it, this is a race. This is a true race between getting enough people vaccinated so that they're not vulnerable to getting pushed into hospitals and put on ventilators and maybe dying, and people who are just free riders who are out there thinking they're just never going to get it. It's tragic. It's just blatant ignorance.
Well, they were shouting these terms like herd immunity without really even understanding what that means. Obviously, they had no idea what that meant. They just kept
what it
shouting.
Meant was, I heard there's something called immunity, but I don't know about it. That's what herd immunity. Yeah.
Do you think that there's going to be employers that require employees to get vaccinated?
Absolutely.
This will be interesting to me.
Absolutely.
Because which party has basically, and it's particularly in right to work states, have said employers can pretty much do whatever the F they want, right? You guys can, whatever you want. You can fire somebody for any reason, as long as you don't say, I'm firing you because you're black, I'm firing you because you're Jewish, I'm firing you because you're gay. And in some states, you can still do that. You can still say, I don't like you, you're gay. I'm firing you. And now you're going to hear a lot of people, basically Republicans, going, well, I don't want to get the vaccine, but I need to keep my job. And it's not fair that person should require me to have. That's going to be the irony of this whole thing. Who has empowered employers to basically tell people, hey, you either get the vaccine or bye, or you're fired?
Well, I'm sorry. I guess I'm a fascist. I come at it from a different point of view, which is who made a decision that the general welfare, which the last time I checked that's either in the Constitution or the Declaration. I can't remember which.
It's the Constitution. It's in the preamble.
It's the Constitution. If there is a better definition of general welfare than getting everyone vaccinated in this country, I can't think of what it is.
Boom.
I cannot think of what it is, but there I am hiding behind the Constitution again. But the idea that a employer can make you take a drug test, and they can, right? They can require you to show that you're not a drug addict.
That's correct.
For employment. Well, now, how could that be legal? But I can't make sure that you're vaccinated so that you don't infect other people, other innocent people. How could that be? Where did where did this come from?
Well,
why did this happen? It's just beyond.
You're going to get a group of people that are going to, now the Republicans are going to claim that employers have too much power. They just can't do it. Now, if you legitimately have some sort of immune system defect or something of that nature, you would be covered under the Americans with Disabilities. You would be covered by the ADA. The onerous federal government would have created the ADA to protect you, so you'll be okay. But if you're an average person with an average, and you cannot get a doctor's note or a fake doctor's note that says I can't, I'm sorry, your employee. This is part of what giving employers so much power, the power to say, fuck you. I'm not putting birth control pills on our healthcare plan. There were people that loved that. They thought that was, yes, it's up to the employer. And that's what it's all about. And if you don't like it, you take a hike and you go work across town. That's exactly what's going to go on here. You either get vaccinated or you head across town to some anti-vax place where you guys can cough on each other all day.
Right. Well, I'm glad we solved that.
We did.
I'm glad we did.
Oh, the story that we didn't get to. Ben Carson is still trying to hype up hydroxychloroquine.
I saw this. Just leave it alone. Let everybody read it. It's too stupid.
Donald Trump. Ben Carson, known as the black guy that Donald Trump didn't kill. So that was the guy. He still thinks that hydroxychloroquine thing is.
Well, here's the ridiculous part of that story, without even commenting on the specifics of it.
Yeah.
Ben Carson was irrelevant in a way before he ran for president. Exactly. He was irrelevant while he ran for president. He was irrelevant after he lost the nomination for president. Right. And he was irrelevant when Trump made him the housing and urban development.
Yeah. He was the HUD guy.
The HUD guy. And he did nothing except apparently order new furniture for that office. Remember that scandal?
That's correct.
And apparently he survived that one.
Yeah.
A lot of the other people didn't survive their scandals. I wonder why Ben Carson was able to get by. They get
Tucker.
all the breaks, don't they? Yeah. And now, post-Trump, he's even more irrelevant. His opinion means nothing. You are done, sir. Good day, sir.
I said good day.
Yeah.
That's fun.
All right.